wasn't that long ago, just a few months ago, that America was consumed with Ebola and what it meant in terms of threats to life in Africa, in the United States, and around the world. And it was right that we focused on stopping the scourge of the Ebola epidemic in Africa. But there was a concern as well, expressed over and over again, just this last fall, about how many Americans would be victim to this Ebola epidemic. It turns out at the end of the day that fewer than a handful were actually affected by it. But every year in the United States and around the world, hundreds, if not thousands, die from influenza. Again, just to get to the point that the senator from Nevada makes, we're penny-wise and pound foolish by denying the money for research for a universal flu vaccine that will save lives around the world. A minimal investment in the United States can make a dramatic improvement in the morbidity and mortality of those who are affected by flu. And so I would say to the senator from Nevada, thank you for joining in this conversation this morning and talking about the biomedical research deficit which we're facing in the United States. I'd like to mention one or two other specific examples in this field. The kind of research we're talking about at NIH holds great promise when it comes to treating disorders like multiple sclerosis. MS is unpredictable, a disabling disease that affects the central nervous system. Symptoms range from numbness and tingling to blindness and paralysis, and there is no known cure. Today, more than 2.3 million people have been diagnosed with MS worldwide, including 20,000 in my home state of Illinois. Typically, MS is diagnosed between the ages of 20 and 50, but between 8,000 and 10,000 children and adolescents live with it in America. People like Megan Malone. In 2004, at the age of 14, Megan was diagnosed with MS. Her first symptoms began when she was in the 8th grade. She lost vision in her right eye for a few days. A year later, her feet went numb while she was out trick-or-treating with friends. By the next morning, she couldn't feel her thighs, and a few days later was completely numb from the waist down. Her parents quickly brought her to the hospital where she was diagnosed with MS. She panicked, thinking she was too young for this disease and afraid of what it meant for her future. But she's doing what she can to stay healthy. She changed her diet. She spends a lot of time exercising every day. She tries to think positively. Since her diagnosis, Megan's gathered her friends and family to participate in Walk MS every May. There's one in my hometown of Springfield, Illinois. They've raised over $50,000, Megan has, to help fight the disease. Megan says, I walk to give hope to others who are newly diagnosed with MS. It wasn't easy to hear those words, and I think by walking, I can help others find ways to be positive about their diagnosis. The National Multiple Sclerosis Society has been sponsoring Walk MS since 1988, and they've raised $870 million to support research. The National Multiple Sclerosis Society and people like Megan are doing their part. But if the federal government is going to do something, it has to do its part. We've got to make an investment at the National Institute of Health to complement the efforts by private citizens and generous people across America to fund research in these diseases. Let me give you an example here. Jonah Chan and his team at the University of California at San Francisco can tell us a lesson. Dr. Chan's team invented a new technology that led to the discovery that a drug normally used for allergies has the potential to repair the nervous system in people with MS. But this important discovery needs further federal investment in biomedical research to move these early findings to promising treatments. Here's what I've done. I've introduced the American Cures Act. It'll increase funding at the nation's top 4 biomedical research agencies. 5% annual budget increase over and above inflation. National Institutes of Health, Centers for Disease Control, Department of Defense, and Veterans Administration medical research programs. American Cures will make funding for critical biomedical research projects less political, more predictable. Dr. Collins at NIH told me, if you gave us regular funding increases of 5% real growth a year for 10 years, I will prove to you that that investment will come back tenfold in helping the improvement of health in the United States and reducing the costs of health care. I believe him. I have confidence in him. So why would we not do it? We should be making this commitment. Cystic fibrosis is another example of federally funded basic research that improves people's lives. The other day, Patrick Magner, a sophomore at Loyola Academy in Wilmette, Illinois, wrote to me about his two young brothers. John is 12 years old, fully functioning sixth grader. Matthew, 9 years old, plays sports at school. On the outside, you'd never know they were dealing with cystic fibrosis. John and Matt both take about 30 pills a day to help with their basic digestive functions. And this does include several other prescriptions, over-the-counter drugs, and daily therapy. They consider themselves lucky because 50 years ago, people with cystic fibrosis didn't live long enough to even attend school. Today, with more advanced treatment, life expectancy for people with cystic fibrosis has increased by over 800%. And research generated from the NIH funding continues to give John and Matt hope for their future. Their older brother Patrick wrote to me and he said, "Without this funding, my two younger brothers might not be alive today." This funding is crucial to not only curing cystic fibrosis, but other diseases as well. Mr. President, that is the promise of the American Cures Act. It allows America's smartest medical research to continue to find treatments to stop the progression and one day, God willing, find a cure for diseases like MS, cystic fibrosis, and many more. Last week, I joined Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania on his resolution to support Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Week. I also like to acknowledge the work of Senators Wyden, Hatch, Brown, Markey, and others on behalf of fighting this terrible disease. Together, along with the American Cures Act, these efforts are improving people's lives. But in order to lead to breakthrough cures in these diseases, we need, as a nation, as a government, to take the lead. And it shouldn't be a low-budget priority. I think it should be one of the highest. I look forward to working with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to make federal funding for biomedical research the true national priority which it is. Mr. President, I yield the floor.